Hello and welcome to another edition of Across the Pond. This one's a bit of a special one, a bit of a couple of weeks in the making, this one. Over here we've got Justine. Justine is our guest for today. She has got quite a bit of tasty information that we're treading carefully, but Justine wants to tell us her complete story, so we're letting her go for it. We've also got Lee over here as well. Lee's here as always. So nice to meet you, Justine.
Nice to meet you guys. Hi Lee, hi Andy.
Yeah, good to meet you as well. We've been talking for about, is it a week now? 2 weeks?
Mm.
It's been a while. It's been a while. So we'll get some of your background now, Justine. What kind of specialty were you in the NHS? What kind of qualifications did you get? That kind of
Well, I
thing.
did 23 years in the NHS. So I actually qualified in 1996. So I did 2 years estates, care the elderly. And then from there, then I did many years in theatres. So I was a scrub nurse. The last 5 years of my NHS career, I was a spinal sister. And then from there I went to private, and then I lost my husband to cancer, and from there then I decided to go agency so I could kind of learn my grief bubble.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. So you can basically say you've been in a lot of different areas of the NHS.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So from your experience in there, what would you say was your preferred kind of field in the NHS?
I'm
Or
just
did you
really
like them
lucky.
all?
No, I like them all.
Yeah.
I've just like evolved.
Mm,
I like the nurse that I was. I like who I am. Team player, be on my own. We have to go in such a wide range of, scenarios,
yeah.
that we had to work it out and stuff like that. And from those, I've done management courses, which I've got quite a few. So I've not got friends through jobs, jobs through friends. I've worked my way up. But through the management courses that I did, I just wanted to stay a nurse.
Yeah. It's
So,
completely
can I
different,
just
isn't
ask
it?
a question, Andy? I mean,
Go for it, mate.
you've
Yeah.
committed pretty much, I think it's fair to say, most of your adult life to the NHS. Is that
Well,
fair
since
to
I was
say that?
17. Since I was
So,
17.
pretty
So
much
I
then,
was, yeah, 17.
all of it, all of your adult life, you've committed to the NHS and helping others, essentially, what the NHS is, the National Health Service. Now, I'm curious to know, I mean, you've given up, like I said, all of your adult life to help. I mean, what was it that made you want to join the NHS in the first place, if you don't mind me asking?
No, it was, your first job, when you first qualify and you're like really excited, and I'm being honest, we had this wonderful matron. I'll never forget her. But she was strict. But guess what? She never bullied. And we were really lucky that we didn't have that. We had like training on the wards, for your IVs, your things like that, your bloods, your cannulas. We did all that on the ward, and it's really changed. So that's how I look at it.
But from a perspective of when you was growing up as a young girl,
Yeah.
did you always want to join the NHS when you were growing up,
Oh,
going
I've
through
wanted to be a
school?
nurse since I was 4.
So caring for people is always something that has come naturally to you then.
Yeah, I just liked what I did. You know what I mean? I do kind of. I've always looked at it, serve others, because that's what you're trying to do. And any kind of things that ever happened to me in my life, I always try to help others with it rather than. So my career, so when I got suspended, all of that was taken away from me. I couldn't help no more. I wasn't the person I was no more, and then I'm fighting for my innocence, and it just escalated and just spiraled out of control. The whole works of it all.
So when I think about the NHS, truth be told, from my experience, I picture people like yourself. I think people who've always had that affinity with caring, and they've always wanted to be nurses growing up. They've always wanted to be in that field, helping people. That's the stereotypical image I get in my head when I think NHS. But I think potentially what we've got coming over the next 45 minutes to 60 minutes might change that potentially based on what you're about to tell us. And it's not just me who's sitting here listening and thinking that, I don't think. I think that a lot of our viewers would also be of the opinion that most people within the NHS are them lovely, caring people that we've sort of come to to come to stereotype as being our nurses. So I'm interested to see where this is going. But that's why I wanted to know what it was that made you want to join the NHS initially.
Well, I had my little uniform when I was 4. You know, I did. Honestly, I had I had my little red cross. Do you know what I mean? And
I was the same. I was the same with the army, so I understand completely.
you know,
I thought you were going to say nurse's uniform then.
and it was something. I know. But believe it or not, it's like they still used to wear the hats. You know, Morrison, they used to years ago when I first qualified, and but it's like anything. You do your job, you still got your little issues and stuff like that, and you're always trying to like sort things out and get calls in the office, and then there's something else, then there's something really big that goes on, but I mean, the bullying you'll always notice with managers. I mean, I can tell you something later on, and it's not nice, but I'm trying to say that I think because of who I was and the person that I am, I don't tolerate bullying, and I'm not a bully. I've never been a bully in my entire career, and anybody that says any different would be like, I really would challenge them, because I never hurt any of them. I was always a teacher. I was always trying to go, right, there's always another way to work around this. Let's sort this out. Let's sort that out. You know, I've always been like that. I've never been anything different. I've never tried to cover up something. If I was in the office, oh, right, this has happened, that's happened, hands up, you know? But it's really in the last 5 years, I've noticed really the change since COVID.
Yeah.
COVID it broke my heart. And I'm being honest.
I think it broke a lot of nurses, didn't it? A lot of nurses got disconcerted with the service after that kind of period.
Yeah. I don't think it was just nurses either, was it?
No.
It wasn't just nurses. It was a lot of people who were seeing lots of things going on, and it was just such an unkind time.
Definitely was. Definitely. Would you say that was when you started to notice things?
Definitely. Oh, yeah. 2020.
And everything prior to 2020 was above board, and as you imagined it would be, working with the NHS.
Just like I said, just get, you know, it's like, you know, I've got children, and not being funny, you know, you getting your children ready for work, and you're going to work, and you're getting up, aren't you? And you cycle all day, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's coming home shattered, and then it's seeing your children, trying to do a hobby, and then back to it the next day and stuff like that.
But that was the norm prior to 2020 as well, wasn't it? You just do it. That's the job, the nature of the job, isn't it? But you didn't notice anything untoward or anything potentially simmering below the surface prior to 2020.
I'd had other things. If you really want to know, I'll tell you. I'm not going to bowels about it at all. I was actually, I do actually have the date, I can't remember it off by heart. I was actually accused of showing my breasts in theatre, and the person who reported me wasn't there. So this happened when my children were about 3 and 6. So when that happened, that's when I come up against the board. There were about 15 of them in the room, and got your RCN rep with you and stuff like that. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do these things. And then you're like, you know, more and more stuff comes out and stuff like that. And I'm saying this now because, you know, I've had an unblemished record. I've not, you know, things, but these are the things that the public need to know, because I think that they do, right? So I was groped on nights, right? And I reported that incident, right? And guess what? Nothing was done. They did stop the nights, right? But that was me going to the Heath. So, but what happened was, when I was there, I come up against one thing, and then all of a sudden a colleague accused me of something else. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And what puts it on you? I was 30, so that's 22 years ago. I'm 52 now. And I'm like, seriously, it was just close it down. What do you want to do, Justine? I said, I'm going back. And within a year, honestly, they were gone through different reasons, you know, seriously messing with the books, stuff like that.
Did you ever speak to any other nurses about any of the things that was going on? Sexual harassment, discrimination. Did you ever speak to any of?
Yeah.
And did they see it happening around them as well?
It came up in my suspension at the time when I was 30.
But did other nurses, or your peers, did they feel the same as well towards maybe these people who were potentially bullying, discriminating, sexual harassing. Was there other cases of it, I mean?
Yeah, oh, yes, there definitely was, yeah.
And they were reported, or was it just a case of the managers were just saying,
No,
don't take it any further? Or?
one, I can't say it because it's not fair on her, but there was a very big one after me. And, there was a job loss because of it.
And was it kept in-house, or did it go through the channels that it was supposed to?
No, I had to do a police statement for that because she was a colleague. Yeah.
And was it the wrong or right person losing their job?
Yeah. It was the right person that lost their job.
Well, justice has been done in that case then.
Yeah, it was good.
So at that point, the system was working, so to say.
We see a working system there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Who was it doing it, Justine? I don't want names, obviously, but was it on your level, your peers, or was it people in more senior positions?
No, this was in theatres.
So it was in the theatres?
Yeah, behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Behind closed doors. Yeah.
Right. It does just show, doesn't it, that you don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So, like, I did my management course in Whitchurch, and if you actually go in there, it's quite an iconic building, it really is. But you go down there, and the walls are all tiled, and it's very eerie. Do you know what I mean? But and it does, and I'm not just making this up. It always gives you that sense of something behind closed doors. It really does.
Yeah.
It really does, and I'm not being funny. It does actually come up to. Sorry, I keep saying that. But it actually comes down to Jimmy Savile, and stuff like that, and really what goes on. I mean, I could tell you stuff as a student, we saw ECTs. I mean, they're horrendous. If you ever watch, an ECT list,
go on. What's ECT just for?
So it's electroconvulsive therapy. So as students, we had to watch that. We had to attend lists. It was, you're 19 years old or 20 years old, and like, oh my gosh. I did my first, CPR as soon as I qualified. Literally every other day, you'd say that you were doing CPR because of the ward that you were on. So you know how easy and how fragile that the body is. Do you know what I mean? And it's not nice. I really wouldn't wish it on anybody at that age, but it's nursing, and that's how I look at it. I was trained for that. I was trained to do CPR on you. I've done the courses. I can stick a tracheostomy tube in you. I can do stuff like that. But unfortunately, because of everything that happened, I've had all of those skills, taken away from me. It's a system. It sucks, and it needs to change from management down. It needs to change from the health board down. Not, because I watched an interview, and the lady had said, "Oh, you should, you get all the, the students to make these changes." You can't make changes through students. You make changes by sorting the top out. By sorting out the top of the health board out, because if you don't, you're going to keep looping every single time. So the learning, the learning cracks me up, because what is the learning? Everybody, no, right, we've learned from this, so guess what? Now we're going to put something into place. We're going to do sessions. We're going to do, so especially A&E. So in A&E, you've got lots of students and lots of newbies, right? They've just taken them on, and they don't have the experience of somebody like me with 30 years experience. They don't have the courses because they're waiting to go on the courses. And it could be 4, 5, 6 months before they get on to do their cannulas and bloods. They can't do ECGs. They can't do stuff like that. So I actually called it bridging the gap, which they actually need somebody who has all of those skills, because managers do managers' jobs, right? Yeah. They still don't do pumps. They still don't do this or not. There's still staff that don't do them, right? And when you become a manager, you totally come off this, off the track. But you still have to have somebody to support these people so that they don't have patients. But guess what? What they should have is these nurses know, oh, do you know what? I could go to that person, they'll help me with my pump. And guess what? That's how you learn how to do the pumps.
Yeah.
That's how you learn conditions. That's how you learn, right. So give you, another thing. So your GTN, which is, for your heart. I'm trying to make it simple. You've got your DKA, which is your diabetes, right? Now these are massive, complex, pumps and and solutions and drugs that you use for these cases. So so all you do is when you go to a pump course, you just do the pumps. So you don't learn the conditions, you don't learn the DKA, you have to learn all that. And I would come home and I would go, right, but I'm prepared to learn it because I want to save your life. I don't want to have a mistake. I don't want to be in the office. I don't want stuff like that, But that is exactly how it works. So I would call it, like I said, bridging the gap. They need people there to help these guys to start learning it while they're waiting for the courses. And then by the time they get to the course, I got a bit more understanding now why we do these things and stuff like that, There needs to be a lot more teaching, which is in that area rather than outside of it. I'm trying to get onto an ALS course, and I tried to do this today. I was actually told, I'm so sorry, we can't take you because it's all for NHS staff. And that is not a joke. I've got that in an email. So my point is, all of these NHS staff are waiting, whereas years ago, 96, my first job, we did it in work.
Yeah.
We did IV training actually in the pharmacy room because we did. Later on, obviously, as everything changes, certificates and stuff like that. And
so what you're saying is basically that the practical element of the learning procedure is not there anymore, and it's all classroom based, which is potentially bringing down the next crop of the standard of the next crop of nurses and the previous set of nurses. Is that
definitely.
sort of roughly where we're going with that?
Yeah,
we're on the right lines there then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So the standards dropped in recent years, and you think, and how long has that been going on for, do you think, from where you can see?
I mean, it's always been busy. My entire career, it's always been busy, right? So, and we do have a lot of elderly care, and you could go onto so many wards, and a lot of it is so much elderly care, But then, like I said, so you kind of bimble on through that time of your life. Like I said, you're busy, you're trying to book a holiday and stuff like that and anything. But it's definitely, like I said, I saw things definitely from 20. So my husband died in 2019 and that's when I went agency, and that's when I saw actual change. It really is from that point, even though I've had things happen in my life before that, if that makes sense.
So if you could just make things, I'm literally just making it so the average person understands what's happened. So are you saying that you went from full-time NHS worker to then going on an agency? Is that essentially, if you could just explain the difference?
Yeah, no, it's fine. So what I did was, I was 96 to 2015, and then I went to 4 years private care.
Right.
And I'm being honest, I found it much better. The care is better. And I know it's the same surgeons that work from the NHS to private, but you know these people, you know who you work with, you work with these guys, like I said, all my career. And women, do you know what I mean? And there's some fantastic consultants out there, and they're really fantastic surgeons. And that's what I want to put across as well. Not everybody's bad. Okay. I mean, the one surgeon helped with my husband, and I can't fault him. I never need to blame that man. I never need to do that. I never need to make a complaint because I've never known such a strong team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But after hubby died, I was like, what do I do? And I made a life decision, and it was go agency because I wanted to go off travelling. And I needed that, and I'm being honest.
So what does agency mean then? Does that mean you go back into the NHS as a nurse, but only on a 0 hours contract, for instance, something like?
So your contracts, this is the problem. So my agency, now I didn't know this at the time, but I actually had a £9,000 bill from the HMRC. And later that was reduced to 2,500. I couldn't work these things out at all. Seriously, I'm not techno, I'm not bad. But the following year I had a £7,500 tax bill. And I'm like, to my agency, I'm like, why do I owe so much money? I don't get it. And I just didn't understand. And then luckily enough, I've got this, text messages, that they knew all along that I was in tax avoidance companies, and I didn't know. So what I'm trying to say is there's so many of us on an agency that we don't know about tax avoidance companies. Now, the huge mass of this, right, is that, so when I'm suspended, obviously 5 years later, after joining an agency, and this is how the breakdown works. So I find out through my suspension that I don't have no legal, I don't have no advice, no support, right? You get no sick pay, there's nothing. And this is how then, that's how I find out later, it's a tax avoidance company. So what I'm trying to say is that you have all these agency nurses all around the country, and guess what? They're not, and they do not have a proper contract. Now, I signed mine, so I thought, oh, it's a contract, it's signed, so everything's tickety-boo. But it just doesn't work like that. So you have lots. Go on.
Does that come down to the agencies then? Are they just not protecting their sort of employees the way that it should be, i.e. you guys?
So they're actually set up as tax avoidance schemes.
So they're illegal then?
They are illegal.
And how are they operating?
So
who's hiring via these agencies?
Well, I'll tell you that now. So it's the procurement of the trust.
Yeah. I know what you say. What she's saying there, Lee, is basically we had a similar thing where I work, is the NHS will hire these agency staff to come in for a day. They pay the agency absorbent amounts of money to hire these nurses to come in, and then this money just disappears in the agency.
Okay, kind of but what I'm saying is, where's the NHS getting the information from for these agencies? Surely there's a vetting process before a company as big as the NHS gives them money to pay for employees.
There should be.
So there is no vetting. Somebody in the NHS just picks up a phone, essentially Googles an agency that hires out nurses, and then books them. And is that on an individual case-by-case basis, hospital to hospital, or is there somebody oversight?
I can say so basically, my agency would give me a number of places that I could go and work. Yeah. Uh-huh. So I could technically go all around the country, from that agency if I wanted to. So I can't tell you about the procurement side of it because I don't know how they work. Mm-hmm. All I know is that agencies come through that process of it to get through to the other end. So I have to have my checks. However, the rogue nurse side of it, it's a criminal organisation. So what happens in a criminal organisation, they know that we don't have, guess what? They know that if it is a tax avoidance company, that we don't have to worry about insurance. We don't have to worry about this. We don't have to worry about getting into trouble because guess what? They don't get into trouble. They don't get caught. And
so how do they get away with it? Do they change the names yearly? I don't understand how they're getting away with this.
Right. So this is a rogue nurse, right? And I noticed this in 2020. And I actually got the picture of her. And like I said, not one manager took any notice. But you just, you got to bimble on, you got to do your job, haven't you? And I noticed it in Cardiff. And I actually spoke then of it to the other hospital that I worked in, and they didn't take no notice either. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And this was happened in work on multiple occasions. And this one nurse, she was at the Omnicell. So the Omnicell is the drug cabinet. And what they do is they tell you to leave the drug door open. Now, if you think I'm the person that's put my fingerprint on that, right, to open up the, now you get tons of drugs. So what happens is then, now I already knew, and I told my agency this, that codeine and diazepam are regularly taken, right? A colleague of mine found 2 strips of diazepam at the back of a drawer, catheter drawer, right? And then you've also got, and it was happening, right? Patients were being extra doped up with, not being funny, but diazepam. And it does happen. It does happen. Guess what? We couldn't detect. We couldn't report these nurses. We couldn't report instances. We couldn't report.
Yeah, well, it's the same within. I mean, in the military circles, we have something called a detachment with all this technical equipment on. And now, as soon as you pick up that detachment, you get you sign it in essentially. It's like a logbook, so that anything that happens on that, and then you sign out when you finished it. So anything happens there, it falls to the person. Know, who had it last, basically. And now what you're saying is that this drug cabinet, where all of these, medications kept, you're saying that essentially somebody unlocks that at the beginning of the day, and then it just remains open all day, and people can come in and take what they want willy-nilly, essentially. Is that what you're saying?
So it goes on your finger. So say the nurse went before me, and she closed the door, because I would always make sure the door was closed on them, right? I'd never leave it, I mean, there was times that we all did it. I'm not saying I didn't. But I'm still saying, once I generally noticed the rogue nurses, I really changed my practice, trust me. And I'm like, you're not doing this, and I'm not doing that,
So the trust element essentially fell away, didn't it? And you've seen that yourself with the rogue nurses.
So what they do is, so this one nurse, she was stood right behind me, right? And I'd noticed on a few occasions that the badges weren't matching the person, right? So on this one occasion, I was like, bang on, I've got it. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense. I've got it right in front of me. And I'm like, so she says, oh, keep the door open. I looked down at her badge. It wasn't her on the badge. I'm not joking. I did actually do this. I ran to the manager, right? I'm like, she's there now. She wants to see me. I said, she's there. And she says, do you know what, Justine? I don't think half the nurses are nurses here.
Jesus Christ.
And nothing was done.
So that leads me on to the next question there. Is the agency that the NHS is essentially giving wheelbarrows of money to send them trained nurses, the agency that you came from, are they vetting nurses? I mean, as in who they're sending to the NHS, are they vetting them? Are they making sure that they've got the qualification?
So you
was. But what about these other guys?
Right, so how that works, right? So basically, badge swapping is badge swapping. So they just swap badges, they just swap uniform, and they're not nurses, right? They don't know how to do bloods, they don't do cannulas, right? They don't do OBS. They even omit OBS. They don't even do OBS properly.
So that's my question: is who's vetting these people? Because those are basic things that you learn in basic training, essentially, for nurses. Am I wrong? Am I right in
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So the rogue nurse is an organised crime. So what they do is they come down together, right? They live together, and they bed hop. Right.
So this is beyond the agency, then. So this is between the agency and the NHS. This is a scheme the nurses are running, not the agency or not the NHS. This is the nurses that are running this little scheme. So to what end, can I ask, or what do you think? Why would 2 people swap over one shift? Why do you think that is?
Well, it's money, isn't it? It's cash.
Yeah, but if they're working off one ID, that's 2 people working for one wage.
Doesn't matter. They were doing double shifts.
Uh-huh.
So what they would do is, so when I caught
plot thickens. So they're working overtime as well, right?
So when I caught this one as well, I'd left the one trust to go to the other trust, and so I've done a long day and finished at 7:30, yeah, and then I was at the next trust the next day, and I said to her, I just saw you. She went, no you didn't. I said, I did, I just saw you. I said, so you've done a double shift, which we know is illegal, right?
But she's done it on another badge.
Yeah, and that's all they do.
Wow, and that's them swapping. So the one who worked at that hospital swapped with the other person. So they essentially just met on the underground, swapped badges, and then went and did another shift in another hospital. Illegally.
But it's why they're always late to work.
Unbelievable.
because they have to swap. Yeah, but honestly, that's why patients are neglected. That's why patients are needlessly dying.
So hang on a second. So just let me just unpack this, just because I'm really shocked at what I'm hearing here. I'm sorry I keep interrupting, but this is blowing my mind a little bit. Am I right in thinking here that there are two nurses swapping shifts, changing over ID cards so they can work a double shift? That's what I'm hearing, isn't it? That's genuinely what I'm hearing. So they're working essentially a 24-hour shift each to get double the pay at the expense of the safety of any patient that they come into contact with.
Yes,
and not only that, but they're also not accountable for anything that goes wrong during that time because they're working off a different ID card. So the other person would get in trouble, not them.
Yes,
as well. And I can't believe I honestly can't believe what I'm hearing. And then
that depends what ID card, doesn't it, as well? Who's on this ID
exactly.
card?
That's the point.
That's why
you could be borrowing my badge. Jesus Christ, honestly. This is
So also, you've got wig swapping.
Wig swapping.
Go on.
So it's where a lot of the black nurses swap their wigs, and you don't
Oh
identify.
my Lord. And I'm going to ask you this question. Do you find that this is a predominantly, is it specific to any particular ethnicity or sex? Is it the male? Is it the ladies? Is it the...
At the time, it's definitely from London.
From London?
Because they all lived in the same... They all came down and lived in the same place, which was, I think it was called the Village.
And again, I'm going to have to ask, would you say that they were foreign-born citizens of the country, or would you say that they were born from the UK? Foreign-born. No. So this is a foreign-born issue then?
Yeah.
And the specific hospitals that you came into contact with, the two that you've mentioned, with the swapping of the badges, is this something that you became aware of happening at other hospitals in the UK?
I told the managers.
And but I mean... So they did nothing. You told your chain of command they didn't take it seriously, or they just ignored you, whatever it was. But did you ever get wind of it happening at other hospitals? The same thing, the same scheme with the same agency nurses, essentially putting people's lives at risk by swapping badges to earn more money. Is that something that you heard about throughout the rest of...
Seriously, I just noticed it myself.
You just noticed it yourself in your environment. So I'd be interested then, and I hope that anybody who's working in the NHS, nurses who see this, potentially may have experienced something like this themselves. I would say, this is a case somebody should come forward, if this, because this is real serious.
Well, I told my colleagues, so like the imminent colleagues that I worked with, so I would just say, look, just be careful, just in case they're not a nurse.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, it's that. But even if they are nurses, what I'm trying to say
is, like, it's not. I did say to people at the time, because I'm like, well, the managers aren't listening to me, so I've got to go and tell these people not to keep the door open on the Omnicell. I'm like, don't leave it open. I mean, these are new guys, do you know what I mean? And these are new women and men, like qualified. And I'm like, please close the door. Just close the door. So what happens is, right, they don't, even when you, honest to God, you can confront them, right? Just say, no, I'm not leaving the door open. And honestly, right, they just walk off. And it's like, there's no challenge, there's nothing, zero challenge at all. And they just go, oh, okay then.
And people within the chain of command, they ignore this kind of behaviour.
Yeah.
And do you think potentially, I mean, now that we've established, obviously, that most of these people involved in these schemes aren't born of the UK, now that we've established that, do you also believe that potentially DEI, or the potential for being called racist, is a reason why that chain of command didn't take disciplinary measures against these nurses?
It's definitely that, Lee. Definitely.
And that's I'm scared, I'm going to save my own skin, keep my job and say nothing.
Yeah.
It's a fear thing. But again...
The racism card is actually used by a lot of them.
Well, that's not a shock to me. I've experienced that myself.
Yeah, and I come up against that, and I'm like, really? I just thought, when all these things were escalated, I'm like, hang on, you left a patient in a full diabetic ketoacidosis. You did do no pumps, but yet you're telling me I'm racist. I just didn't know where it come from. I've never been racist. Any of my colleagues or anybody knows me. I've never been.
Yeah, I'm sort of the view that within the NHS and the military, actually, to be fair, and any public service, in fact, any workplace, is that there is one thing I think maybe comes above all else within the NHS, and that's possibly the care of the patients within under the umbrella of the NHS. Maybe the care is more important than, the what colour skin people are. This is what my point I'm making is her reaction there was to call you a racist rather than focusing on the issue at hand. But this is where the common sense, I feel, is lacking in a lot of workplace environments. Because rather than applying common sense there and saying, well, okay, it could be that, or it could be the fact that you didn't carry out your basic tasks and drills designed to help that individual.
That's
So
right.
it could be that. It could be that you're racist, or it could be that you haven't done your skills and drills properly. I think there's a big issue across a lot of public services and workplace environments with that lack of common sense. And you've just highlighted it. And the problem for me on this one is this isn't just numbers or a little bit of money that may go astray. This is somebody's life that we're dealing with. There's people's lives at risk.
But there's too much of it going on. And that's why I choose to use my name, because I'm not going to be hiding in the shadows anymore. I've been, seriously, as I explained, it's been like that. It's like, you're not going to go anywhere and you're not going to say a word. And it's like, are you kidding me? I'm not letting any more patients die. I'm not doing it. Honest to God, guys, I'm
So
not.
this is, I mean, just from being on at this long length of time, I can see what we've got on our hands here is that there is a scheme being ran, an illegal scheme being ran by illegal nurses who are being hired through essentially illegal companies as well. Yeah, and this is going unchecked. And the chain of command are not acting upon it because they're too scared of being called racist. And again, this is something that we've heard many times already through various different occasions, not particularly with the NHS, but with other realms. And then we're also seeing people suffering and being silenced and this whole thing being suppressed as well.
I don't think it's just the racism, though, Lee. I'm being honest.
No, but this is the point. I'm only covering that first base. We've still got more to talk about.
It is the fact that managers, just seriously, I just found that it's like, when I found out different things as I'm going along, I'm like, do you just not want to deal with it?
That was my point. By parroting that off, that's just one thing that we're discussing here. We've just essentially covered one point of the many, many, many different things that you can tell us about this, and it's sickening. I mean, this doesn't. Maybe we can't cover this in one episode. As ridiculous as it sounds, it's outrageous.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely crazy.
And I swear to God, I want as many people from the NHS to see this. Not because I want heads to roll. I mean, yes, of course, people deserve to be punished for this. But I also want other people who are out there working in the NHS, who are in maybe the situation that you was in, a few years ago, who are suffering, who have seen this, who are seeing this all around them. And to come forward and tell us, and say this, because we can't allow this to continue.
Well, put it this way. There was only a couple of people that helped me for my court case, okay? And not anybody else came forward to even help me.
And that's out of fear, isn't it?
Yeah. So the statements that I had for court, they both had to be anonymous. And in those letters, there is lots of detailed stuff about the cover-ups. It's about, there's an assault on, by a healthcare assistant on a nurse who wouldn't report it. And it's because she's friends with the manager. This was all happening and this is all going on. And this is guess what? If you don't wake up now, NHS, there's no health in it. There's not going to be no trust in it. So if you don't, if you don't sort these things out now, I'm on here, I'm talking to you guys, hopefully somebody will go, do you know what? We seriously need to listen to these nurses. Because I got to work to save your life. I don't go to work to end your, obviously end of life is different, I'm not saying that. But I don't go to work purposely to end your life. I don't have manipulation skills. I don't need to go around a question. I'm quite direct. It's not about confrontation. It's yes or no. If I need to talk to somebody, I would have spoken to, consultants, surgeons. You look at anybody that I've worked with my entire career, and I can honestly tell you, I will get this. I will get an excellent, Justean was excellent at her job. Yeah. Because these people know me. You don't want to support me, that's fine. But guess what? I'm going to prove to it. Right, and I'm going to do all these, and I'm going to do more podcasts, and I'm going to build my army. right?
Yeah.
I don't think
Because-
that would be hard to do, to be quite honest with you, after what you've just
Because-
No, it
told
won't.
us.
Because I am not going to be there anymore, and also I know so many people, they can't talk, right? So if you look, I'm not talking about just staff, okay? So if you've got vulnerable people, right, you've got elderly, you've got dementia, you've got suicidal patients, right? You've got all these array of patients and end of life. Guess what? They can't advocate for themselves. Right? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to share my name and I'm going to do this for them, because you know what? If we don't get somebody to stick up for these people, where are we going to be in the next 10 years? Right? Where are we going to be in the next 35 years? You look at Robbie Powell, right? The poor kid, 35 years later, his father is still waiting for answers. You see, all of these things are like, why have we got to wait another 35 years? How many more deaths?
Yeah, but the question is, and this is something I really want to say, to anybody who's watching this, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, is that think about it. If it was your grandparent, or if it was your parent, your daughter, your son, brother, sister, whatever it may be, who do you want handling your loved ones, looking after them, taking care of them? Someone who genuinely cares about your loved one, who is there to do a job that they've always wanted to do since they were 4 years old. Or would you prefer somebody who's operating under a Ponzi scheme underneath an agency that's not working legally themselves? Do you know what I mean? This sounds systemic. It doesn't sound like it's a localized thing. It cannot be something that's localized to your hospital. This has got to be bigger than this.
Because of everything that, I mean, like I did, and I'm not even scared to use her name. I even told Lynyd Morgan, who was our health minister, and I wrote all my letters, and it included them, and my response was, "Thank you, Justean, for raising your concerns, but it's an employment matter," and that is exactly.
That's why you've gone to her, because the employment procedure is not working. So that's why exactly you've gone to her, and that's the response you got. Obviously, there is something wrong when a nurse from the NHS is sending a letter to the health minister. That would warrant looking into a little bit further, and maybe a little bit more respect than perhaps the response that you got in that letter. Thanks.
Well, everything of mine was, like I said, was the build-up, the suspension, but that's a different part. So,
but if you can't go to the very top like you did with a complaint, who can you go to? If the system's broken in the middle and you can see that, who are you supposed to go to? Is there a welfare system within the NHS that deal with these kind of things, that operate outside of the chain of command? There isn't. There's no welfare.
So I wrote to, seriously, anybody you can think of, I wrote to, okay? CQC, HIW, I wrote to Ombudsman. I've even complained about the judges. I have, right? I've written to the, I wrote to number 10 3 times. I wrote to, who else was it? Hang on. I wrote to King Charles.
The very top.
I did go to the very top. I just thought, well, there's one more to do, so I might as well just write to say I'd done it.
So this is obviously serious then. I mean, let's be quite honest. Andy, how many letters have you wrote to King Charles in your lifetime? Not that many, I can imagine. No, I'm the same.
No.
I've had grievances and I've been annoyed with my employer, but I've never felt the need to write a letter to the King. So
I do have
what I'm
something
trying
funny
to say
to tell you.
is,
I did actually write to the Home Office. But I accidentally wrote to the South African Home Office.
I can imagine. I bet they did more for you, though, didn't they? Did they try?
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. If you saw that if you see this letter they wrote to me, right, I actually had a quicker response in 24 hours from the South African than I did from the NHS in Wales.
And that doesn't shock me at all.
No, it doesn't shock me at all either. No.
Oh, and South Africa were very nice in the letter. They said, "Warm regards, Justean."
Really?
I'm just ticking this over in my head, this agency thing. For me, what that says to me is they're paying the agency for 4 nurses, but only using 2. So the agency would pay these 2 nurses and keep the extra or something like that. So that says to me someone hiring the agency is skimming money off the NHS.
So what it comes down to I know what you're saying, but I can't comment on that.
No,
Yeah,
no,
no,
no.
that's
No, that's
hearsay. Is that
fine,
Andy?
But this is
It's
what
just
I
me
do
in my
know.
head.
That's
For some
not
reason,
I know.
unknown.
What I do know is, right, so basically it comes down to a tiered system with agencies, right? And it also comes down to fees. So it comes down to what fee is that. So I know this, I'm going to mind boggle you even more, right? So it's called on and off framework. Right now, again, I don't know stuff like this. Not being funny, I'm grieving. I'm just getting on with my life and getting on with my job, right?
Yeah.
However, so this took me 2 years, right? So this is why I spoke to my agency. So I'm like, he says, oh, I got to check with the trust to see if they're off framework. And I'm like, well, what's off framework? And he tells me that's the tax avoidance. So I'm like, well, how does that work then? And then it works out that you just pay the lower tax. So nurses they pay the low tax. Now, because I was on framework, I thought, how have I got such big, huge, massive bills from the HMRC? And that is exactly how it works. So if you're off framework, it means that basically it's the tax dodge.
Yeah.
And that's my knowledge of it. I don't know the rest of it because I don't do their jobs. Do you know what I mean? And I'm certainly not into organised crime because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
Sounds to me like
definitely.
some of these the agencies. It sounds to me like the agencies are operating under their own scheme. It sounds
Right.
like
So the
the
agency, they
nurses
do
are.
know. The agency
Yeah.
already know, and obviously the trust know, because when I was suspended, what you have then is, oh, do you know what? It doesn't matter because Justean's not covered because she's in a tax avoidance scheme. So they already know that doesn't matter that I'm trying to get legal or I'm trying to get cover because I'm null and void.
You're technically not there, so to say.
I'm not there.
You're not covered.
No,
Yeah.
you're not covered at all. And that's what I said. It's only that.
So everything
This is
comes
what
out
I'm
of your
trying
own
to get
pockets,
this out.
basically.
So this is why I'm trying to get it out about the tax avoidance. So this was last year as well. So what I actually find out was that Acacia, which was my payroll, okay, and the one after that, that the agency is, so when Acacia went down under, and you can read up that one as well. So what happened then was they flew to a company called Umbrella Union. Now, I had a letter from HMRC and I rolled the dice again. And within 2 weeks of me telling HMRC about Umbrella Union, they were again investigated for tax avoidance schemes. So you got the trust, you've got the scheme, and you've got the agency. Now my agency knew, so there's no two ways about it. They knew. And and they know these things because guess what? We just go to work. I don't get into the depths of it. I just want to get paid, come home, see my kids, and that's it. You know what I mean?
So you think the agencies knew that the nurses were running their own scheme as well?
Well, I told them about the rogue nurses.
And they just didn't
Says
do
to
anything
me
about it.
they're involved.
The majority of what I'm telling you, I've actually got in texts and emails to my agency.
Brilliant. That's perfect, isn't it? And that's
got-
again something you can speak about. Andy.
Including the rogue nurse, I've got 5 years of evidence on paper.
Did you ever look into who owned these agencies or who was on the board of them? Or did you not find that information?
So all I know is that obviously these managers. So I will say this because I'm not bothered, but he didn't actually respond to me after I told him about the tax avoidance, and he was the MD of the agency.
And you was in regular contact with him prior to when you told him?
On and off, because obviously, suspension and stuff like that. But the actual MD of my agency, funny enough, she left.
Strange.
But you know what's odd about it and what hurts most is that these guys go into another job. I haven't worked for 2 years because I've been a whistleblower. Because
Well,
of
that
what
makes
I
you
worked
think,
out.
doesn't it? Is it a push or jump type scenario for these people? Jump and you can carry on working in the medical industry, but you're not staying here.
Did you
Or
know
we'll
that?
get you.
Do you know about the DBS?
No.
No.
Do you know that there's so many people that don't have to have a DBS check?
Oh, the DBS. No, I didn't know that. Who?
Right, so MPs, government, they're not checked. So that's how they jump from pillar to post. That's
Yeah.
how they keep in their jobs.
But that also means that they can be fairly high up within councils and people that control
Well,
local money, right?
It's councillors as well.
Yeah.
So if
And
you
these
look,
people are elected officials. And just so I'm clear on this, people that we're electing to put in office, they're not required to have a DBS check at
No.
all. So,
No.
okay. So this essentially they could be on any sort of list, and we wouldn't know. All right. Okay. And these are the people controlling the money that's flowing into the NHS, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
And how much money is spent on private healthcare sites and NHS sites in their constituents.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay.
And where the money actually goes as well.
Does that seem right to you? Does that seem right? Because I'm going just if I work in a bank, for instance, and I get a job as a teller, right, on the front desk, taking your money and just doing your basic stuff, I need a DBS to deal with those £5 and 20 pences that you give me, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
So why does the person who is dealing with that bank not need a DBS? I don't understand.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Are we just literally pointing out huge flaws in the system here, or what? But this is ridiculous. Why is this common knowledge?
No.
Nobody knows this because I didn't know it. I'm 36. I didn't realise our MPs don't need DBS checks.
No.
Or councillors or any elected official for that matter.
Google it.
That's crazy, isn't it? That's
I didn't know that until today.
Yeah, so if you think I have to be DBS checked, because I have to, like you guys, okay, to work with the public, do this, do that, and yet I have to pay, like, if you think about it, I've paid for 33 years of DBS, right?
Yeah.
But the next person doesn't, they're not even, if you think about it, they don't actually contribute to, what's it called, the system, do they?
No, they don't. No.
They're not contributing to the system.
I can't believe this. I can't believe we've only covered the first point.
I know. I didn't expect this to take this long just on the first point. There's so many points to cover, isn't there?
Outrageous.
Crazy,
I think maybe we do a series. We'll cover this one tonight and then another one another night because there's so much. I mean, we've literally just covered the agencies and the rogue nurses, and we've done near enough an hour. Good God.
We could go into more on that as well.
Absolutely we've only just scratched the surface on that one. The Jesus Christ. I can't believe it. Justean. This is, like I said, one scratch of the surface.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it. When you have like night shifts on these wards, you can potentially have three nurses on a ward at night?
Well, when I was
less than that?
Well, when I was groped, it was just the two of us.
So it's just two of you.
Who did the groping? Can I ask? Do you mind? Is it a doctor, another nurse, a patient?
It's a healthcare assistant.
Healthcare assistant, and do they come via agencies as well?
No, they were just employed. But at the time,
they come up through the NHS as employees then.
Yes, but at the time when he done it, it's true what he said. So he grabbed my chest as he was walking past me. And he said, you want it. So what I did was, and this is a true story, I actually locked myself in the porter's bay that night and I told a colleague in the morning.
I don't blame you.
And because it was one-on-one, so it was very difficult to broach it. What's one-on-one? What are you going to do about it, However, when I was suspended, for allegedly, like I said, flashing my breasts, bear in mind that was actually to an intubated patient and there were several staff in that theatre. And if they're all hearing this and reading this, guess what? They'll know exactly what I'm on about. So they all had to make statements. I was suspended for 3 months on the NHS.
And can I ask what they said? What did they say in these statements? Because what we're saying here, if you've been suspended for this, then 7 statements went in and 7 statements said that you revealed yourself. So they've all lied, essentially.
No, they didn't. They all stuck up for me.
Okay, and why have you been suspended then? If the people in the room who saw it said, no, that didn't happen.
No, so basically it was a manager that wasn't even there that reported me.
Right, and they've suspended you barring an investigation. An investigation that should have finished the moment those 7 statements landed on the desk to say, no, that's rubbish, she didn't expose herself at all.
Yeah.
And that should have been the end of that. But that's what you're still suspended for?
No. So somebody else made another allegation. and it just escalated. So I had to prove my innocence on that as well.
Shouldn't you have
It's
to prove your guilt? Isn't that the way that the system works?
well, the way it's going, yeah. Especially with
Yeah, but
what
that's how it's
happened to
supposed to
me.
be. You're supposed to prove that you're guilty, not prove that prove that you're innocent.
Yeah. It's
What
just
had happened beforehand, though, Justine? Just before that happened, was there any reason why the manager wouldn't have been happy with you and wanted to maybe get rid of you quickly under the desk or anything like that before that actually
no.
happened?
I was a good performer. No, I was like good at my job. I really enjoyed it. But I mean, like, at that suspension, I mean, it just went on. And what you got to think of is that when you're suspended, you look at how much it costs the NHS at that time when I was 30, to take me off work, no shifts, and then to do the investigation. And then I was actually asked if I wanted to have a secondment, which is why I ended up at the Heath. And then, that side of it was very different. Again, managers bullying. And I actually did do this. So it was my last it was my last day when I had to make a decision and my result, if that makes sense. So there's about 15 board members in it. It's a proper big table. And the manager at the time, I'm going to be honest, she was lovely. And she was actually, I think she just got it with me. She just, what are you doing to this girl? Do you know what I mean? It was, she really must have thought like that. But again, she was doing her job. And she asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I want to go back. So she said, oh my gosh, like, are you sure? And I went, yeah, I do, because I'm innocent and I didn't do it. So literally the last minute, she actually says to me, she said, have you got anything to say about us? I'm not joking, this is true. And I said, yeah, actually I have. And she said, what's that, Justine? And I pointed to a manager in front of all 15 of these members. And I said, your bullying sucks. My RCN rep was by the side of me. Her name was Rachel. Right? And I said, and I pointed to this manager and I said, she is one of your worst bullies going.
But she still got a job.
I think, no, well, she definitely retired a couple of years later.
Right.
But I'm not scared to do that because you know what? Honestly, the night bullying was horrendous. Certain managers, and I could tell you their names as well, but I won't, the hospitals probably bloody sue me. But I know their names, do you know what I mean? And I mean, they are retired, they might have passed away by now, I don't know, but it was an awful culture there.
Can I ask you a question, Justine?
Yeah.
If you just give me just to make things again crystal clear for me, who's never worked in the NHS, a hospital. Does a hospital come under its own sort of steam? Is there somebody who's running a hospital, and then they're essentially the chain of command down from there, and then there's a. Do you know what I mean? As in, is there somebody who's in charge of that hospital as the tip of the chain of command before it then moves onwards again? I assume there would be.
It's just always the next manager after them. So it goes.
So, but is there not like a head of medicine, for instance, for each hospital, like a general? You know what I mean? The man who rules the hospital.
I mean, well, I can tell you this. So when I worked at Landoc, we actually had to do on-calls for the Heath at the time. So that's how we get to work, like, for years, at the Heath, and back and forth and stuff like that. So if you look at that scenario, you've got two trusts that, it's all one trust, but what I'm saying is you've got that hospital and that hospital, and they merge.
Yeah, I suppose what I'm trying to figure out is the chain of command, just the structure of command downwards, obviously.
Right. So the chain of command comes from the very top, and it's the board.
Okay, and the board is situated, and that's each hospital has one board, correct, per hospital.
Well, I know that the trust that I did, but I know that at the time, like I said, so when I was suspended, then I came under Cardiff board, if that makes sense, because Cardiff overtakes the other trust.
Okay, so if you have a grievance, then it's normal to go to the board. That'd be the.
No, it's like anybody. You just file your complaint. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, and then it might go up to the board. eventually if it's not
Yeah.
solved. Okay, so that's the chain of command. And above the board, obviously, we've got, I suppose, next step up would be politicians. Is that right? Health ministers and
Well,
whatnot?
that was Lynette Morgan for me.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been through these chains of command. So you've been to the managers, you've told them about this stuff. And I'm talking specifically about the agency, rogue nurses and stuff like that. You've been to the chain of command, you've told your managers. I'm assuming they're not telling their managers, i.e., they're not reporting it up the chain. That's where we're seeing going wrong here, is it? You're reporting it, and you've essentially been silent.
That's part of it, Lee.
Yeah.
Because when I was suspended May 23 now, so it's 2 years. So in May 23, I raised concerns again. So, but that's if you want me to do that, but like I said, I gladly talk. It's just like you said, you've covered so much in that. But this suspension is a whole new different story.
Okay. I think maybe it's best we keep that for another episode then, Andy, don't you?
It is where it goes right to the top. And like I said, the cover-ups of care. I do want to say this, if you want to, like I said, stop, it's fine. But I just want to get these bits in before I do go.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
How you can work my case out, like I said, what I've learned to do is I've sectioned it. So what I can tell you is how us nurses are bullied, right? How we are forced without seeing complaints from patients, right? So let's just say, for argument's sake, Andy, you made a complaint about me, right? Do you know I don't see your complaint?
No.
Right? Would your manager then come and tell you that there's been a complaint?
Right, when I do see it, is doctored.
Right.
So what happens then is, in my case, right, and this did happen with a few, so what happens is then I go off, if you think about it, I'm going off then a doctor's statement which I don't know. So what the trust do then is try and get the answers to that doctored bit so that you are forcibly have to apologise for something that you might not have done.
That's just crazy. That's just bonkers.
Right, and that's across the board. Right, so that's what happened to me. Right, but I know a few colleagues it happened to as well. But in my case, so I could tell you how we're bullied, and then once we found out different things were going on in the department, and then other areas. And then the other thing is, we were told to stop datexing. So in September 22, we were told to stop datexing, right? Now that's really serious stuff. So if you really know me and knew how I worked, I would question everything, right? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? Why can't we, right? And then I'm like, really? So my build-up starts to come up more then from this point. So my agencies already knew about, already knew about the tax avoidance and problems in the department. And then all of a sudden then the agency starts to get involved the minute September 22 came. So I get a phone call, I'm abroad, and she tells me, I'm just letting you know, Justine, this is how she said it. This is how you've got to go and be retrained for datexing. I said, what do you mean be retrained? What, after 30 years of being a nurse? I said, that's nuts. And I find out then, so on the phone call, and I did actually say to her, I said, there's no way, I said, you're not stopping me from datexing. And she just goes silent and she doesn't say one word. And I'm like, well, if you want to come and do my job on the front line, I said, you're more than welcome to. I said, because you sit behind an office, you sit in a chair behind a door. I said, there's no way. I said, if I need to datex or report something, I'm going to do it. After that, seriously, my career just went downhill.
Can you just explain what datex is?
Right, so datexing is reporting. So just to say you were my patient, I saw lots of bruises on you. And then what you do, you input it into a computer, and then you can do a tick box.
Right, so it's essentially a triage then, an initial triage.
Yeah, exactly. However, so what I find out later on is that a trust, through datexing, it actually responds to 17 other organisations. So every time somebody puts in a complaint, and they do certain boxes. So what they were doing was falsifying data, right? Because guess what? We were told in every handover pretty much, stop datexing, stop datexing.
Why do you think they were doing that? Why do you think they were falsifying? Why do you think there was a need to falsify the data? Why did they stop you guys on the shop floor doing your reports?
Well, I worked this out, that the trust were trying to get us special measures.
Special measures? Is it an extra funding and more money, essentially? Is that what it
Puts
had
the
meant?
eyes on you, doesn't it?
It's honestly, it's a whole package. Sorry, just gonna. It's a whole package. So when you make a report, obviously, you can't advocate for somebody if you can't report. So I ended up, and I did do this, I ended up doing secret data accessing, and like logging it in patient notes where we were told, seriously. So this is actually in my anonymous court case as well, from the girls, and it says, we couldn't data X, we can't report staff shortages. Now, if you can't report staff shortages, that's illegal. I mean, it's actually illegal by a trust to not let us to DataX. So, like I said, we couldn't report assaults. We couldn't report anything. Not anything that you can think of, we couldn't report for you. So
how would that information then get passed up? Are you just saying it wouldn't? It wasn't getting passed up because of that, the lack of reporting? So it was just getting ignored then?
Oh, yeah, we just told to stop DataXing. Stop reporting. So ulcers, things like that. So I actually went to a manager, and I just said, look, can I, document writing down a pressure ulcer? She actually said no. So I said, well, what's the reason, or what's the rationale for that then? And she said, well, the thing is, Justine, she said, it'll be a hospital acquired anyway, so don't worry about it.
That's just mad, isn't it?
Yeah. So hang on. So it wasn't a hospital acquired because it come from home, right? And then I can't document it, and then it becomes a hospital acquired. So just giving you the other scenario, the family could sue the trust saying that it started in the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, why would the person be in the hospital? You don't just walk into a hospital. They're there for a reason.
Well, yeah.
That's like me
mad,
breaking my arm, going to A&E and saying, I've just broke my arm in A&E. No, that's not. I've come here with this. Oh, my God. Right, okay. So they're purposely getting rid of paper trails for their own benefit.
So another one. So I was actually called, this was before my suspension, right? I was actually called in the office about a month before, and I was accused of stealing £200. And I said to this, so bear in mind on this day, there was actually a lot that went on. So she's in the office, and what they do is every month on a rolling rota, right, they are in charge of complaints, right, and they deal with all the feedback and stuff like that, right? What I'm about to tell you next is not nice to anybody, right? So just take the tip from me. So I get called in the office. I'm told that I've stolen £200. I ask for the complaint, and I'm told, don't worry about it, that I have to write a statement regardless, right? So I do the statement. I'm not being funny, we're so busy, you go back to work and all the rest of it. That same day, I'm actually in the middle of the corridor, and one of the agency who was considered a favourite, but guess what? A very dangerous nurse, by the way, NHS, just so you know, right? They kept her. Now, a few days earlier, she left 3, not 1, not 2, she left 3 septic patients. No treatment, right? So, because we couldn't DataX it, right, I remember speaking to her, I spoke to the daughter, and I said, right, I'm just letting you know, we can't DataX. I said, but if you want to, if you want to, I said, write it on a piece of paper on the feedback form, yeah? So what this manager did a couple of days later, she gives the agency the feedback form. She confronts me in the middle of the corridor telling me who do I think I am, right? I said, do myself a favour. I said, don't you ever come at me in my face ever again. I said, there'll be consequences, right?
Yeah.
The feedback forms, so any patients that do paper feedback forms, is my tip of a lifetime now, right? Do not put them on paper because they get put in the bin. So guess what? Your complaints go nowhere anyway. But what they do is they keep the bad, negative feedback forms on the nurses to use against that nurse at another time. So they're good feedbacks, but guess what I did? I got my feedback forms. And I got everything, especially after I was suspended. I got my feedback forms. I've kept them. Just do a log, anybody. Just make sure you do your diary, your document events, and Datex. And if anybody tells you that you can't Datex, it is illegal. I don't care who they are.
So if anybody is watching this who maybe is in a similar predicament and maybe they are getting pressured, maybe they're not, I don't know. But if they are, what would you suggest that they do?
Do it anyway.
Do it anyway. And if maybe some heat comes from the chain of command again, who would you report it to? What would you do?
So
I'm just trying to help. We guide.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So it still works out. So it still works out down to due process, doesn't it? Because if you go to that level, they'll say, "What did you do at that level?" Right. Yeah. So you always have to report it anyway. Always document it in your notes. Right. So if anything come back from my patients, even years to come, guess what? You get me in a court of law. It was there. It was documented. Right. So even if you couldn't do the Datex, I documented it in patient notes. Again, anything could happen years later down the road. But you get me in that court, and guess what? I documented the lot. And then after that, then you Datex it. But as I told you, there was lots of times I could Datex, so I wrote it. Right, to cover my own back. And that is how I worked it. But then, like I said, my story is very different. But I would still say not to do it. You have to do it. Because you're advocating for your patient. You're looking after yourself, your PIN number. And don't forget, the minute you're reported to the NMC, that's it. The first thing they want is documents, evidence, this, that, and the other. Because that's another report system altogether. And that's what the NHS put me through as well. All that for finding out and making disclosures.
So that nurse, then, the one who left the 3 sepsis patient, was she also via the agency? She was one of the suspect nurses, rogue nurses.
Not a rogue nurse, from what I'd worked with her for a long time.
Okay, but she wasn't. So she wasn't one of the badge swappers, but she was just bad. She's a bad nurse. Underqualified, did you say? Or did she just get that post?
No, they put it in charge loads of times.
Okay, and again, is that a DEI thing? You think maybe?
It's a favouritism thing. And I've got that in emails too.
And when she was left in charge, was this after that she'd left the sepsis patients alone up before?
Yeah, no, doesn't matter.
So after she'd done that, she'd been put in a position of authority.
Yeah, and it was because, guess what? She didn't open her mouth.
And did anybody else say, that nurse, she's left 3 patients with sepsis, no treatment?
There was a few people that were like, oh my gosh,
And nobody said anything?
No.
Okay. And why do you think that was?
I told you it's fear.
It's fear for your job.
It really is fear. They really cannot talk, so I am. Like I said, it's fine that I've got the people that did support me, and it's fine that the ones who didn't support me, they just can't say nothing, or they lose their jobs and they end up like me,
Yeah.
And it is really the way it goes. So, like I said, even in my emails from my agency to my investigators, I was actually accused of stealing morphine as well. And all this is to cover up disclosures that I found out. So
what do you think? I mean, what do you think we should do about this, Andy, then? Because there's a lot here, and there's a hell of a lot, and I don't think it's right to skim over this stuff. I think it's more important to unpack it all and show it all for the fucking, mind my language, for the shit show that it is. Because it is.
Oh, I'm so shocked!
Yeah, but that's right, though, isn't it? I think it is a shit show, and I think unpacking it the right way gives the topic the credibility and respect it deserves. What do you think?
Everything is going to have to be, we're going to have to do it section by section, Justean.
I think
obviously we know what's happening with you later in the week, so we're going to have to do more. We're going to have to take this section by section.
It needs to be, like I said, we do need the Welsh Government. You're our bosses, do you know what I mean? And they need to go okay, really, this is really what's going on.
Justine, question for you. Reform are now in charge, right? In Wales, they've sort of taken over most of the local councils that went up for election.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good place to start with complaints. I mean, I think things will get easier now if they're sort of in charge, because they seem to be on the working side of people a lot more. I know if you look into it, they haven't actually said anything really that bad, but I mean, I think they're more than likely going to listen to you as opposed to the cover-up Labour and Tory governments of the past, because they're really bad. I mean, you know yourself, but Labour's just riddled with complete corruption from top to bottom.
Well, I mean, I'm not political. I'm being told, as I said, I am the worst because I'm in such a political case that I actually didn't even know I was in a political case.
So the problem is, Justine, is that you were never going to win this case. Unfortunately, it's not a case that you're set up to win, not yet. Anyway, at least we are living in woke, very woke times, with the liberal left who they seem to be in charge, or they have been for a number of years now, and we've seen this happening throughout many industries. The NHS, like you're mentioning, everything you're describing, this is all commonplace, I think, from things I've experienced as well within the military. And things a lot of people who I know who are still in the military are experiencing currently. It's a systemic issue, and it's the DEI, the woke narrative, that liberal left agenda is crippling the system because it's prioritizing everybody else based on skin color, sex, sexual preference, as opposed to common sense. I think the fact that you've got Reform now in a position better in Wales, I think perhaps that you might have. I think they'll probably lend an ear a lot more than what Labour would have done.
I would like to say this because my situation. So the Welsh government have actually taken on board some things I've said, which is, to me, it's something. Okay,
better than nothing.
Because this is across Wales. And seriously, that took 4 years, because from the initial of complaining and moaning and whinging and stuff like that, and then 2 other things, and like I said, just totally shut down, totally silenced. And then, like I said, that got me 4 years, but I did have a good cry over it because it's something.
The problem is, like I said, you are just happens to be the wrong sex, probably the wrong sexual orientation, and there's many other things that you probably just don't tick the box of, so you're not worth listening to. This is the system, unfortunately, that we're living in these days.
No, I can tell you what a lot of it is, Lee. It's jealousy.
Well, there's that as well, I suppose.
There is an awful lot of jealousy in nursing, and why? You're just trying to do your job. Okay. So you can do a peg feed. Okay, so you can do a DKA. Okay, so you can do a GTN infusion. That's part of your job, isn't it?
But I think
that
kind of excellence is a good thing for a work environment, because if you've got if you've got other nurses around you and you know that they're better than you, that would push you to want to do more for yourself, right, and become better yourself. But these people, you're saying, they don't see it that way, do they?
They don't.
It's the jealousy thing, and quite often, as they say, people are promoted from positions based on not the merit, but for other reasons promoted into positions, and that jealousy can then continue into the leadership. It poisons the well. The well is poisoned.
No, nepotism is huge. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is shocking. Do you know what? That one's got their daughter there. That one's got their daughter over there. That one's got his son. That one's got a contract through his son. It's not best interest, is it?
It sounds like to me there has been something. I mean, like I said, we've only covered the one topic. I'm sure the picture will be a lot broader at the end of the week. But it sounds like to me there is a broken system here that is completely crippled from the top down, with a bad leadership structure, bad central command, whoever's controlling the budgets. It doesn't seem to be an operating system, a system that's working. It sounds like it needs sort of redesigning and repurposing, so everybody's singing off the same song sheet.
See, now, after my suspension, this in May 23, right? So it's the manager and then their boss, and then their boss. So I class this like as a spinal cord. So the head, your skull is, the health board, and we're the rest of it. So, but I'm not the rest of it, because we're the nerves, and we're the nerve endings, and we're the little workers, trying to save lives and trying to sort this out, and trying to sort out the concerns and stuff. I generally felt like I was going into shift, honest to God, guys, right, to save lives from these nurses that had just done a night shift with them. And I had an opportunity, and I worked nights with them, and that's how I find out a lot of information. I even said to the girls, right, from London, I said, "What'd you come all that way for?" I said, "It's quite a lot." And even my agency couldn't understand how the trust didn't want people that were regular from our area. You know what I mean? Even in Wales, he couldn't understand it. And then you've got all these other nurses, and they just said, "Oh, we just come down for the money." And that, to me, that was,
It's interesting though, don't you think? Because the narrative seems to be that NHS and nurses don't get paid very much, and they're not get paid what they're worth. Yet there's these women flying around all over the place, coming down for the money. That would suggest that it's a lot more lucrative. Is that right, or do you think there's something of foul at play here?
Well, like I said, so there was rogue nurses, and that's how they do it.
So it's good for the money when you're working a double shift.
Well, no, and it's also good for the money, because guess what? You're not even trained.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So like
there's
handovers,
that as well.
right? So honestly, right, you could do a handover, and it was honestly. So you come onto shift, they come on late, and you're like, "Oh, for goodness sake, we've got homes to go to as well, And you'd be like doing handover, and they want the lengthiest handovers going, right? But by the morning, trust me, they're gone. They're out those doors as quick as you could say boo, right? Because guess what? There's no pumps, there's no peg feeding. I had a patient, and I swear down, guys, right? 18 hours. This person had no peg feed. Now, they couldn't swallow, that's why they're on a peg, right? No feed, no pump, nothing. Not even a bolus of water for 18 hours. So I said to her, right, I said, "I'm just asking you," I said, "why is all this empty?" And do you know what she said to me? I don't know how to peg feed." So I said to her, "So you mean to tell me that you didn't escalate, that you couldn't do a peg feed?" So this patient now was gone for your whole 12-hour shift, 6 hours before, and done nothing. But I worked out that bit as well. So do you know why they don't tell the managers?
Go on.
Why?
So they don't get sussed out.
True, yeah.
And because they don't have to do the defects or whatever, what's it called? They
So
doesn't
they
get
wouldn't
reported.
have to be like, so if they reported it to the manager on duty, which guess what, shit, they wouldn't have known, right? Because they don't. So what would happen is they would go, "Well, hang on, they just wouldn't go to these people, full stop, because they don't want to give up the game that they don't know what they're doing." So that patient is put at risk immediately the minute they're on shift, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't do pumps. So it's like a DKA, which is a diabetic ketoacidosis, right? Sometimes we've got 3 pumps. Trust me, they haven't got a clue. So hang on, that's insulin, right?
Yeah.
You're playing about with insulin. It's a drug. It's deadly. It can kill if you don't give it properly. That's why it's called protocol. GTN infusion, they didn't know what they were doing. But guess what? They still won't tell the manager.
Yeah.
So you can't blame, can't blame the fullness of it, because they just think, "Oh, these people are coming to work." But it's not that. It's this, I'm not going to say nothing, because guess what? I don't know what I'm flipping doing, just so they can get out. But that is how I then find out, because a lot of my patients, and they were like really like oozy and like, like headed and stuff like that. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's the bloody diazepam. Your buggers have been given diazepam.
no minimum, yeah.
So they were just drugging the patients overnight
They
while
just
they
keep
were on
them,
shift.
Yeah, they keep them silent.
Yeah.
They keep them silent, and that's how it does it. So guess what? So also, when you come to a new school, right? So say you had sepsis patients. Now, I'll just give you, and this does everything I'm telling you has happened to me, right? So you come onto shift, right, and you've been using a 0, right? 5 zeros. Okay, that sounds great, doesn't it? Because it does, perfect patient, right? But it's not. So how come the minute I come onto shift, right? I do a set, because most of my patients I stick on cardiac monitors so I can see it like that, right? And then, hang on, how come my patient's using a 5 or a 3? Because guess what? They had sepsis building up all night.
Oof.
But you've just got nurses just sat on the desk, and I can tell you this for a fact, because my friend, right, she actually sent me a text message and she said, Justine, she said, you will not believe this. She said, I'm up on the ward, because there's different wards for us, okay, that we go on. So she says to me, Justine, I'm just letting you know, I'm on the ward and every single nurse that's here, yes, was from London agency, right? All sat on their phones all night watching films, right? So I said, just go and tell, obviously I'm at home, you know what I mean? She's just sent me a text message. So I said, you better go and tell a manager. Now bear in mind, this person that was in charge of this shift was only a band 5. So they've got
the lowest band to band 5?
That's the lowest band. So you've got band 5s actually in charge of these units, and it's not acceptable because you're putting so much pressure on these poor people that guess what? You're bound to have mistakes. But the fact is that night, and yes, it was the one night that she was on, and she texted me and she said, Justine, she said, they will not move. And the first thing I said was, you better go and get a manager from A&E. And she did.
That's just crazy, isn't it? I was going to say, would there ever be an opportunity where these nurses would be basically in charge of the ward, these ones from London, and you've just proved it there that yes, they would.
I don't understand.
Not in charge, but they would be on the ward.
Who are these people? Like, I don't understand. They just get on a train from London, turn up at the hospital, flash a card and say, oh, I'm here for my shift. And somebody says, all right, no worries, just in you go.
Well, that's another thing. So basically, I've got this in the text message too, and I'm telling my agency that they just literally rock up for a shift that they're not even booked on for.
But how do they book on? It's via the agency. The agency says, oh, we need a shift at this hospital.
So what happens is a friend books a shift who's an actual nurse.
Yeah.
And they swap it with their mates.
So the actual nurse will, in theory, be working that night, but they won't be. They'll give their stuff to somebody else who you don't even know who that person is. It could be anybody.
That's right.
So they don't have to scan in then when they come in? They don't have a check, an ID card or something that says, beep, there he goes, he's in the system now, he's been on shift.
No.
Nothing.
And I've proved that for 3 years that I was there, not once was I ever challenged.
Right, okay, so let me just get this really straight, just so I can really help people understand this. Andy, he works at hospital, at Lancaster Hospital, yeah? He's got his card, he works by the agency, happy days. Andy decides that he don't want to work one night, but he still needs the money, so he calls on his mate Lee. Hello, that's me. I come swooping in, I take his ID card off him, and then I head down to the hospital, and I just walk on in there with no qualifications. I've got his card. I say, yeah, I'm here. I'm Andy Monk. I've been booked for 8 o'clock Friday till, 8 o'clock following morning. And somebody behind the desk says, lovely, thank you very much. In you go. No checks, nothing else. And that's it. And then Andy Monk gets paid for it and I get to go home. And so what's in it for me, by the way, out of interest?
Well, you'll probably get some of his share of cash.
So I just get a bit of share. But he got a double shift, but I get 50 quid in back pocket.
You'll get something out of it from me.
Shit the bed. I'm sorry, but my brain's just not computing. How the hell is this possible? How is this acceptable? How can this happen? I don't understand. Why is there no protocols or nothing? Like you said, why is there no standard operating procedure to vet these people? Because surely there should be a system where you scan to show that you're there and
scan out. Yeah.
You've got your ID number, your agency number or something. That's like basic stuff. It's not difficult to make that kind of tech.
So you see, somebody like me, I've been with the trust for 3.5 years, right? And so I'm a regular. So you know me as a regular. But when you see the ones that you don't know as a regular, that's where the dangerousness comes in. Because somebody like me was, guess what, pointing them out.
This fake person, it's not her.
So guess what? You've got rid of me from protecting all these people from these rogue nurses because guess what? You've got the new people that come in that don't know these people, and then a couple of years in, they just go, oh, right, okay, we know her now, and she's regular and stuff like that. And no, it is how it works.
So when you're explain why they're shifting around the country, wouldn't it? If these nurses are coming in from London,
hell yeah,
and they're travelling over to Wales now. Once you get to know them in Wales, they could be shifting and then off to Scotland, and then
No,
a
it's
new
not
bunch
could be.
coming.
They are.
That's what's happening.
So
Tell you
yeah,
something,
so
man. The conspiracy head on in me, the conspiracy head person is going nuts right now in my head, trying to figure out why they might be doing this. And the conspiracy in my head is going nuts.
Money.
It's
Yeah, I know
organised
it
crime.
is.
It is
but this is
organised
from
crime.
the top. This sounds
Yeah.
like it's from the top.
So if you
This
think of
sounds
it,
like
it's like a phone
this
scammer.
sounds like it's a way of getting rid of the NHS to me. It sounds like the poisoning it, or somebody, whoever's playing the game, sounds like the poisoning and destroying the NHS, so it's not workable anymore. It's a model that doesn't work. Once they can recognise publicly to everybody via all this corruption and the system breakdown, they can then justifiably say, well, we're getting rid of the NHS. And everybody will be all right with that.
You've already got that happening. You've already got that happening.
Yeah.
So if you look at the trust, right? So you've got Harley, places like that, right? They having GP services. They're taking over, what's around it, so that these trusts don't have that accountability.
Yeah, it sounds like the feather in the nest to privatise the whole thing and get more money out of people because they'll have to pay for healthcare via maybe an insurance system like the Americans. It sounds that's the conspiracy not in me, by the way.
People have been for a long time, a very long time. If you don't know this already, they've already been paying for their healthcare. You just don't see it. So I can give you tons of examples, including my own husband with cancer, right? So if it wasn't for my husband's company at the time, he wouldn't have had the cancer treatment that he had or waited as long because he had private care. Yeah, because it was a business, through his insurance. But if you think the next person has to, like I said, no cancer care or whatever and stuff like that. So basically, if you think about it, although we didn't technically pay for that for his chemotherapy, right? Somebody paid for it. So
but he's been paying taxes through his company for years, right? So he's paying for it. He's already paid into the system. He's paid. Yeah. He's paid for the privilege of having private care.
If you look at lots of people, right? If you really listen to lots of people, there is so many people that, guess what? I'm going to go to Bristol. I'm going to go and pay for my kid, because guess what? The NHS won't fund it. The NHS won't fund this.
But then again, you don't want the NHS dealing with it if this is the kind of care that they're giving out, right? I mean, after what you've told me today, I don't know. I think twice about taking my kid to NHS, and that's sad. Because that's not the organisation that I grew up loving. I know it sounds weird, but when I was a kid, I used to associate going to the doctors as a nice experience. I used to like the GP. I used to like getting a sticker and a little lolly or whatever if I'd been good. And the doctor was always lovely, and the nurses were always really nice. I don't like to imagine the NHS being a place that isn't full of smiles and friendliness, and just the kind of place that you feel comfortable leaving your child.
The thing is, I do say I do generally have a fear of the NHS after what I know, right? And because of what I've done.
The problem is, it's like your little piece of the world.
I can honestly tell you that I still would say if you need treatment, you do have to go to the NHS or your private care. At the end of the day, you do need somebody, and like I said, I know some amazing consultants. I've worked with them.
So do I.
So do I, yeah.
And it's potluck, though. That's the point. That's the point.
It's not. The NHS needs rebranding, right? And that's what I think. The whole system needs changing. It's time before, guess what? Whatever way that they go or these governments choose to do, whatever. I mean, we certainly don't have a say, really, do we? Be honest, right? We're the bods. But if they really don't start changing things from now, we really are going to be in trouble. If this was actually in an article the other day, believe this or not, and I know a lot during COVID as well. Okay, I know I saw a lot, and that's another subject. Okay. But
that'll be another episode.
God!
But when you've got with COVID, right? Even from that time, like I said, I really noticed things from then. I said I've got on with my career all my life and stuff like that, and I have, and I've jiggled across the challenges and and the bullying and all that stuff. But especially during COVID is where everything took its turn for me. That's when I noticed more things. That's when I noticed the system. That's when everything was like what I was being told. And that's not like being told by any random, that's being told by my agency. You know, that's being told by a system. And then having been accused of things and stuff like that. And then I was sent. So the same day, I made more disclosures after my investigators, right? Who also knew the story, everything I'm telling you pretty much. And what happened then was the 13th of September 23, my investigation was taking too long. I'm like, what's going on? But this is how it works. Any delay, and please don't do this ever, the minute you're suspended, call ACAS or your solicitor. So what it is, it's a strategy, it's a tactic, right, to make you out of date and out of deadline and out of delay for court or employment tribunal. And that's what it's all about. That's why they go silent. It's to say nothing, to shut it down, right? So they're all working timeless behind the scenes while you're going, oh my gosh, I got to save my skin and stuff like that, right? But what happens then is they Joe, I talk so much.
No, go for it.
They just, so that's that side of it then. The NMC referral. So I made more, what's it called? I made more disclosures, right? Because then I wrote 18 health board letters, right? I wrote to Eluned Morgan. I wrote to the HIW, which is Health Inspector Wales, right? And I poured my heart out, right? And HIW at the time just said, look, we're going to keep this on record for 10 years. So you can have a look at you can have a look at their records because it'll be there. Eluned Morgan, I told you what she said from his secretary or whatever. And then the same night as the 13th of September that I sent in all these letters to the health board, I had a phone call at 1800 hours on the 13th of September telling me that I was sent to the NMC Fitness to Practice. And the first thing I come out of my mouth was, who the hell do you lot think you are? Ruin my career. And that, seriously, I even said to her, I said, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to my career when I've done nothing wrong? I said, no due process, absolutely nothing. I've done nothing, right? Seriously, they just go quiet because it's easier to go quiet, isn't it? And say nothing, right? So what I actually find out later on was the same day, which was September 13th, was the same day that the trust went into special measures.
Coincidence.
A massive coincidence.
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
So I'm told by my managing director of the agency that it's okay, Justean, it'll only take a week, and then you'll get the NMC referral. It took 3 months. Now, bear in mind, I'm not working. I've got no money, zero.
Jesus Christ.
I'm even told, right? I was even told by the job seekers, lady behind the desk, you can't claim because you've got savings.
Yeah, over 6,000 savings, you're not allowed a penny.
Right? So I'm
it's reduced, it's reduced. But wow.
Seriously. And then I'm like, okay, so I can't work because I'm getting bad references. And it's also, so the NMC referrals is to keep you from doing anything because you can't do anything at all. However, during this time, and this is my court thing, so the 1st of August, I got my P45, right? So I got my P45 in the middle of a suspension.
Yeah.
Right? I contact ACAS one day after I make the disclosures on the 14th of September, right? And then the 28th of October, I'm given my, the ACAS conciliation. So what have I just told you? That is in date. So how come I have had 3 judges telling me that I'm out of date?
Well, it's not, is it? It's
definitely
not
out of date.
It's way within the date, to be honest.
Yeah.
Before we just go spiraling down into the next shocking revelation, all it's going to do, and I know what I'm like, I'm going to end up asking more questions, and we'll be here for another hour. I wasn't expecting this. I really wasn't, Justean. I thought a little bit of insider on something. You know what I mean? I didn't realise you had information on so much. And like I said to Andy, I don't want to just skim over this. I think it deserves more. Do you know what I mean? Do you mind? Would you mind having any? Would you have any issue coming back on and doing more in-depth
No,
stuff?
I'd love to, but can I advocate you guys to a couple more people? So, and I really do mean this. So please, Victoria Rickson. So Victoria Rickson is the uncensored midwife.
Yes, that's what you told me about. Yeah.
And she can tell you some stuff as well. She has, oh my gosh, she has had her own awful story. And I couldn't have done this without lots of people, I'm being honest. So I'm actually, Accountability Crusade, Steve Leverley is amazing, right? He has helped me so much, him and his wife. And I think what I found is, and I just don't just don't give up. Just seriously, just don't give up hope.
No, definitely.
Yeah, but the thing is, Justine, I know you're upset, and it's been a long old road, and it has. It's been pretty shit, but from what it sounds like, the last few years, being quite frank. The beginning is, I think, what you're doing now is the beginning. Telling people about it, because this is the new media. It's gone are the days now of relying on big mainstream companies to get your message out there and tell the news as it should be told. Those days are gone. This is how people get the news now, get the message across. It's via YouTube, via, podcasts and stuff. This is how people are waking up. You can see around the world, there's revelations and revolutions happening everywhere. And that's because people are listening to people now. Yeah, gone are the days of, like I say,
I just think don't give it hope, because even though I felt like it's very isolating, okay, what they do.
No, it will be, yeah.
But don't you act like you're at the end of your tether. This is the beginning for you, all right? So don't worry about it.
Because I actually also got a cease and desist from the trust. And that's another thing that they do. So even though I've done everything by the book, complaints, and believe this or not, a manager will actually dob you in for promotion because they want to be part of the group. And it really is, seriously, it really is how it works. It's very dominatrixy that way. It's, it's very much, it is a bad culture.
Do you know what I think, Andy? Thinking about this.
Go on. Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it. Maybe it'd be an idea to get every part recorded before we release it. So I release it in parts, because it's going to be we're recording it in parts. But I think maybe we get the whole thing before we release it, if that makes any sense. And release any of it. Just for you, Justine, more importantly, to protect you, secondly.
I'm being honest, I don't want protecting, Lee.
No, I don't. That's not what I mean. What I mean by if we've got everything recorded, ready to go and release, then there's nothing anybody can do to stop us releasing that. Do you know what I mean? Because we've got that content.
Yeah, I understand.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas if we release this now and Jesus Christ, this revelation is massive and the powers that be decide to squash it, then we can't do a damn thing about it. You know what I mean? But if we've got that content already, that gives us all insurance. Does that make sense? What do you think of that? Do you agree? Disagree?
No, I do. I agree.
Yeah,
So
100%.
So get everything first and then release any of it. Not in a wanna, but it's on our terms then. Yeah?
Yeah. Once it's all out there, that's it. There's nothing they can do about it. With podcasts, once it's out there, you can't do anything about it because they download to people's devices and you can't take them off. Once they're there, it's out there.
So I think for the strength of the argument, I think we get everything recorded, and then once we've got it all sectioned off, we can start drip feeding. But my God, I tell you something, this deserves to be spoken about. It really does. This is shocking, and for the main reason is, for me personally, yes, there's obviously other factors at play. But for me, it comes down to a simple question for me. I've got an 8-year-old girl. If I take my 8-year-old girl to hospital, I want to know that person on the other end looking after my kid is fully qualified, there because they want to be there, and they're invested in the safety of my child. That's my priorities. There are no other priorities for any parent as far as I'm concerned.
So I would always suggest, because I do, especially everything, and Corinne Cope's son, was just really damaging. So they can't find the unidentified doctor. However, what is very strange with me is that I actually worked in the unit. I wasn't there on the day, but I can tell you that her version of what the trust had given her is very different to what my version is. So we have correlated. We're in the same, we're in the campaign for the NHS, and we've been to MPs, and we're trying to get it out there,
Well, we'll get
but
it
what
out there.
was,
Don't you worry about that.
but what was strange, Lee, is that the unidentified doctor they can't find, right? But yet me, who did nothing wrong, the NMC asked if Justine has had any problems before, any complaints before the NMC referral. Do you know that the trust didn't even respond, right? But what they did respond was, which I lovingly have, I have a 109-page statement for a court of law by the NHS with names on, lovingly, and proving how far it goes all the way up to the top of the health board, who covered up disclosures, who covered up a child's death, because that's what they did, right? Because we are shut down like that, and it's be quiet. And I also have my email saying, be quiet.
But the thing is, it's funny that you say this, Justine, right? Because you hear similar cases from within the police. The same systemic rot, basically, from the top down. You hear the same thing that you're telling us right now from the NHS. The similar things you hear within the military. And we know that there is elements of that within the political spectrum as well, and councils, etc. And these are the things that are being exposed. They are getting exposed slowly but surely. And again, the grooming gang, and this is part of the same thing. There is very curious reasons as to why there are people within power and positions of authority who are not paying the attention that these subjects and topics deserve. And you've got to ask the question why. And there's more people now asking why, and more people asking for answers. And that's why you cannot hide this. Yeah, but you can't hide this. You cannot hide this. The mainstream media will not be able to keep these topics suppressed much longer. Because of what we're doing, because of what other podcasts are doing. You brave people like yourself who just want to tell the stories. And this is news. What that crap they're peddling on TV is not news. That is
it's not news.
Fairy tale. It's just narrative.
So what I find out is, what the NMC asked is, how many shifts has Justine done, right, in the 3.5 years that she's been with us? And guess what? They provided every single one. But yet, guess what? They couldn't identify the doctor that with Corinne's son.
I'd be willing to say the doctor is no, I'm not going to say it. In fact, I'll just leave it. I'll just guess. Everybody can guess exactly where I'm going with that. Yeah.
I just want to say thanks for your time. Okay.
It's only just begun. It's only just begun. This is it's a very interesting. It's a hell of a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. And I'm sorry that you've had to suffer with this.
Massive.
Quite honestly, I know it's not something I can impact, but for the last few years, it sounds.
My lovely home, Lee, is up for sale. Because I haven't had no work for 2 years. However, I'm going to spin myself here. I have just actually had, I've set up my own company for myself.
Good.
And it's called Creme de la Creme Freelance Nurse. And I'm going to be solo.
Good.
And it's just been accepted by Companies House. So just about to get started and, sort out my agreements. And I'm sticking to my agreements, by the way.
Good.
And
that's
hopefully
great.
Get started soon.
That's really good, honestly, really great. I'm a business owner myself, so I understand it's better to be doing things for yourself, for sure.
And it's not, do you know what? I'm so weary of honestly going through the tax avoidance stuff. I tell you what, it makes you really scared. And I actually spoke to the HMRC when I come to the second one, and I told them about the other company with the tax avoidance. I did say this to them. I said to the HMRC, I said, I'm just asking, I said, but do you go for the NHS? And his reply was, no. He said, we just go for the nurses. So you see how the trusts get out of it as well. And that's what I said, it's us that cop it. It's us that cop our stress.
Yeah, but you're expendable, right, in the eyes of these people.
Oh, I very much am, yeah.
And you've got a never-ending flow of low-skilled labour flowing in. Just ready to be exploited by these fake agencies and utilised. They utilise their own work schedule, what it seems like, for their own financial gain. the bottom level's destroyed. It's not just poisoned. The well's not poisoned. It's crippled. It's broken. It's completely destroyed. As far as I'm concerned, from everything you've said here, and if it's happening at the hospitals that you happen to work at, where else is it happening? And if nothing else, that's what I want to see happen from this: is that more people come forward who have been in similar situations and corroborate exactly what's going on, not just at the hospitals, obviously that you work at, but throughout the UK as well, and other NHS
I'm certainly not the first. I'm certainly not the first. We've had hundreds of years of whistleblowers, but guess what? If we don't keep the next generation of whistleblowers, this is how they just keep getting away with it. And
yeah, but there's never a better time to come forward with this. Like I said, in the last 30 years, a lot of this stuff has been squashed. We're living in a time now where the times are changing big time. This kind of stuff will be serious.
Noticed that, isn't it? It's definitely this year. It's this year. I mean, like last year, it was totally different. But this year, it's like, again, the groups that I've joined, I mean, like, wow, totally off. It is that time, and it needs to change because, like I said, that article I told you about. So this was actually in the paper a couple of weeks ago. The actual trust that I worked at actually made an apology, stating that during COVID, something like 1 out of 4 deaths was needless. And guess what? We leave it there, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of questions about COVID. Don't you worry about that. So, definitely. Wet the whistle nicely, Justine, for the next episode there. Nicely done.
100%. And like I said to you, Lee, my phone hasn't stopped over the past couple of days from Justine, but also from TikTok and things like that. The things I've put on, that people are just reaching out all over the place.
Good.
My phone battery is nearly dead because of it. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and obviously, Justine, you've said it yourself. If you know the people who, you've maybe, I don't know, used as a shoulder in the last 5 years who've also experienced this kind of thing, feel free to send them, tell them to speak to us, and get this information out there. Anything that builds a case.
My second one is, honestly, he is lovely. But his story is, I know it's not NHS, but Ajit Chambers. Seriously, what a guy. This guy is.
It might be an idea, Andy, if we can get some voice notes together, from accounts, get some voice notes so we can play them throughout the episode and stuff. The things that'll lend credibility to everything Justine's saying, perhaps. Maybe that could be something we could utilise if there's people.
It's possible. Oh, there's lots. There's a lady called Lorna who's reached out to me, and she's going to start doing a lot of this on this platform for us. And there's so many parents who have reached out.
That's right,
It's parents.
Yeah.
Good.
They're reaching out saying, why does this happen to my child? It's not right. And
it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable because you know what? We could save your life within seconds with sepsis.
Yes, you could.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is my point. You've got sepsis. Now, if you don't feel well at home, you get into hospital, right? Mm-hmm. Now, this is how I look at it. You could be on that ambulance. You've already got sepsis. I'm just doing the sepsis one for now, right?
Yeah.
You've got all that time on an ambulance, but you've got sepsis. But guess what? By the time you actually get into A&E, do you know I only have 1 hour to save your life, but yet they've been on an ambulance for 12 hours. Get that one. So I have to do a body map. I've got to do cannula, bloods. I've got to get IV. I've got to do the sepsis pathway on you, right? I've got to do times, dates. Right, I've got to do quite a number of things on just one person, right? But yet, that person's been on an ambulance for 12 hours.
Stuck in a corridor as well.
And it's not. Sepsis needs that, right? Just get into hospital as soon as possible and just say to them, I think it's bloody sepsis. You've got to say it, you've got to say, look, I am having chest pain, I think, and you've got to, we have an hour to save your life. Then that's not even from that time ago. That's from that point of A&E. Yeah. We have 1 hour because we're told all the time, we've got 1 hour. So I've got to
golden hour, eh? The golden hour.
It is the call it the golden hour because that's what it is. And it's from the time you're at home is the golden hour starts. It's not from the time you get to A&E. You've already got that time lapse by the time you get there.
Yeah.
And that's wrong as well. Do you know what I mean? Because I work from top down, okay? So even if I had an inkling, let's just say well, I don't know, I'm just saying, you could, it doesn't even matter about news scores. So it could be the condition of you. You could be sweaty, you could be this, you could be saying, right, okay, this has been my symptoms for the last whatever, right? And I'm just going to go, do you know what? I'll see a doctor straight off, just say, look, I think it's sepsis. These people that I did work with, right, most often go do it. Let's just start the sepsis pathway as a just in case.
Yeah.
Because guess what? If I give you antibiotics and you haven't got sepsis, what have I done? It's still not that. I've still saved your life.
But it sounds, Justine, it sounds like if I'm coming into your capable hands with suspected sepsis, I'm okay. But if I fall into the hands of perhaps maybe a different agency nurse, the chances are I'm not going to be okay. And that is a problem. And that is the problem here that we're talking about. We don't want that.
But sepsis is, like I said, it's so quick. You know, septicemia is so quick. All these blood diseases, you know, they're so quick.
And that's one illness, by the way, right? My problem is on this is, what about chronic injuries? What about chronic injuries? Things that could be avoidable, like that may linger on for years afterwards. Injuries that didn't need to be loitering around for years. Do you know what I mean? Like, my own personal experience of this is my missus, she got, what's it called? Epidural when she was giving birth. And she's had big time issues with her nerves in her back since. She's had major issues since then. And I keep telling you, so there's this medical negligence. You know, clearly, you know, because she retold me the story, and it says that there's like issues. At the time, it didn't seem very good. But anyway, she's had issues ever since. But I think that's a medical negligence thing. It's like she's had issues
so what
since.
you can do with any negligence, right? So it's like, this is the thing with the date Xing. So what happens after the date Xing? If we can't report it, I'm hearing this across the board, across the country now, right? Because the groups that I'm in. Now, if you think that person up in Scotland, right, they've just applied for their FOI notes, and guess what? There's no documentation of it, because guess what? If you don't date exit, it never happened. So guess what? You can't make a claim. Now also, right, it's called the HS date and it's called the leaderboard. So if you think about it, freedom of information for the trust that I worked at, right, September, everything aligns with everything, all of my cases and the women in my group, right, and stuff like that. So September, October, November, December, there's not one complaint, freedom of information for that trust. So for 4 months, there's not one complaint. And guess what? That is why I got the cease and desist for, because I asked for freedom of information last December, right? December the 10th, I asked for the freedom of information and I asked for a SAR request. 2 days later, I got the cease and desist on December the 12th. December the 19th, you will not believe this one, right? A manager, so that's after a cease and desist, only contacts my phone, and I screenshot it lovingly, right? Contacts me. 3 days later, I'm not joking, I'll even show you on the next one, right? I have a huge truck bolt thrown at my house, right? And a stone, a rock thrown at my house, which I kept. I've told the police everything, right? Of my knowing, of the bullying, of everything. And my response was, we don't deal with it.
Who does deal with it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who can you turn to?
All right, okay, no problem. Would you like me to go and hire my own vigilante group for protection then? If you're not going to deal with it, who deals with it? If the police aren't going to deal with it, who deals with it? That's the neighbourhood watch? You know, what the hell are you supposed to do? Right, anyway, Jesus Christ.
If you look up in Essex, right, so there's something like 200 negligence issues, right, with deaths. And that's now been investigated by the police. So I did do this. I actually sent my case to them. And I said, this is actually how the system works. And all I got response was, you're not in our catchment area.
I'm going to ask you a question here, Justine. I want you to give me the truthful answer. What is it you want out of this, out of coming clean? Ideally, the end product. What do you want to happen as a result of you telling, and maybe the avalanche of information that comes forward afterwards? What do you want to see happen?
I actually want world peace, Lee. I do, no, I mean it. I really
I know,
do.
let's bring it down a bit smaller locally.
But I'll bring it down a bit smaller. I want to save lives.
Yeah.
And that's
And
guess
that's the
what?
key core of
And
this
that's
thing.
not small, right? That's big.
Of
Because
course.
if you look at if 1 in 4 deaths were caused during COVID, and yet it was called in the newspaper as needless, then guess what? They didn't need to die, did they?
No,
So that's it.
that's
There it
definitely.
is. I mean, what other reason do you need? It's there, and save lives. Is there a better reason to be doing anything? I don't think there is.
That's what 90, I'd say 99% of nurses want to do, don't you? You want to save lives. You go in there because you care for people. Obviously, there's the bad apples in the car, but you're highlighting here that these other people are coming in, and it's just absolutely mind blowing. It's
Well,
crazy.
they're coming in with the wrong intention, the wrong motive.
Yeah.
Everything is wrong. Everything's wrong from the beginning of them arriving here to going to via an agency, which we already know is a corrupt, illegal scheme in the first place, and then they just seem to be operating under their own steam somehow
Well,
once they get through the agency.
it's called illegal labour.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it from what it sounds like. It sounds like it's a hell of a lucrative scam they've got going on, and if nothing else, from all of these, these parts that we're going to do, if nothing else, if that stops, I would have considered this a win, because that sickens me. That what you've told me today, honestly, just that part sickens me. It really does. It made me angry, very angry, knowing that, and it really has pissed me off. I'm going to speak frankly, say what it is. It's pissed me off. It's disgusting that's the reality that we're living in.
Yeah,
So if nothing else, if that gets fixed,
that's the reaction that that is needed, because with everything that I was working out and what I was finding out and why I was being shut down, it shows you that guess what, we just, it is public concealment. And I did actually say that in my court, right? Now I'm a litigant because, like I told Andy earlier, I've contacted over 50 solicitors, right? And I was actually told this by just a few. Justine, we're so sorry, we can't represent. And I'll tell you what, these people were lovely to me, and I'm being honest, right? They never spoke down to me or nothing. And they said, we're so sorry, Justine, we can't represent you because we will not get work from the NHS if you win. So I have done all this on my own. So I will tell you this, I've actually got this. I've got a 4th appeal, my last appeal next year, right? I don't know if it's the same judge's mind, because I actually reported them. And I'm not, no, I even went to Barry Clark. I'm not doing it. If I go to work to do my job. I do not go to work to corrupt you, to take anything off you, to steal off you, to do this or to do that off you. I do it by the book, because that is how I rocked for 33 years. So guess what? I don't care who you are, whether you're the government, whether you're this. You do your bloody job because you get paid for it, and that's what you wanted to do. You want to be an MP? Great stuff. Be an MP, right?
get your DBS.
But you get paid for it, yeah, and get your DBS as well. Don't start me on that one, Lee.
No, that's brilliant. Just needed loads of information there. Is there anything you want to finish off with, Lee?
No, what you've told me.
No, sorry, it's my fault. Just the like I said, the HSCJ leader board. So basically, what happens is when all these trusts from all over the country, what they do is they go onto a leaderboard for complaints. So if you think that we couldn't datex for that entire time, right? But yet you have a manager that's in the office doing complaints all the time, but yet there's a note, right? So what I later find out is that, guess what? If you put a severe complaint in, right, guess what? It's downgraded. So everybody, when they put a complaint in, it gets downgraded to a 0.
That's just crazy, isn't it? It's fiddling everything.
It is fiddling the
books. It's all corrupt.
It's all, and it is. It's fraud.
Yeah,
it's fraud. It's negligence. I even took I think I'm nuts, right? I even took my story, my case, to the human rights, right? And you know what? It's not in the remit, Justine.
No, absolutely not.
Doesn't seem to be in
anybody's. And that is the human rights. And I'm like, so hang on, so you're advocating for human rights, but yet I don't come in the remit and I've made all these concerns.
It's mad, isn't it? It's just crazy.
I hope somebody sees this who can genuinely affect the outcome. Do you know what I mean? I really do hope this lands in front of somebody who can genuinely grab hold of it and take hold of this and take it somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Because all we're doing essentially is a new age news. That's what a podcast is. We're the new age news podcast, and if somebody
like
sees this,
earlier, though, Lee, it's the news.
yeah, but it's the real news. And I say, if people pick up with it and it gets you onto more podcasts and hopefully bigger and better and bigger platforms and stuff, then this is the important thing. It's not about who delivers that news. It's the news that needs what you're saying needs to be out there. It's not about who me and Andy or anybody else. It's we can pass this on and we can get this bigger up as well, ideally, because it's shocking. I mean, what we're talking about is not just interesting stuff. This is illegal and legal. When this comes into question, there's people that need to be informed about it. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, essentially, we're implicit in covering it up.
Yeah, exactly. It is just like you say. It is crazy. Is there anything you want to say, Justine?
I just want to say thanks. Like I said, I'll let us all time out. I'll let you catch your breath, boys.
You need some time to think on it.
I don't think I'm going to sleep tonight. I don't think I'm going to sleep tonight, to be perfectly honest.
Honest to God, Justine, thank you so much. And thanks for being brave. It's not just on my behalf, but on my daughter's behalf and every other parent out there. Thank you.
But I just don't look at it. Honest to God, Andy, I don't look at it as brave. I really don't see myself like that at all. I honestly don't. It's just, it's time. It's not acceptable. It's like I said, it's all these years, it's decades, and if you're not going to change nothing now, what bloody hope have we got for the next decade? The next new staff that, guess what, that really can't say nothing. I do the whole scaboodle here because I've got to do the lot. I've got to do your newbies. I've got to do the people that can't speak up. I've got to do your end of life patients that, guess what, that might be abused, right? That can't have their end of life drugs because, guess what, the nurse didn't give it. And I have seen that.
We're denied that dignity.
They are denied their dignity, right? And it's not. What are you going to do? So it's okay to let somebody suffer end of life? No, it's not. If you've ever seen it, right?
I have
harrowing.
seen it.
I've seen it. Yeah,
my grandfather and my mum.
It's heartbreaking when they've changed so. When they start gurgling, burbling, and you're like, oh my gosh. But if you can give them some dignity and some time, then that's great, and make them at peace.
Yeah.
You don't have to be struggling before end of life. My husband, and I tell you the truth, boys, right? My husband died in the hospice, right? And I will advocate these guys because they were amazing. Excellent. And I'm so glad that my husband died in the hospice, right? He died in St. David's Hospice up here in Cardiff, right? And I'm not joking, the best, right? He might have gone on a bit longer, I'm not saying that, right? But what I'm saying is he had the best care. He had the best nurses. You knew who those nurses were because guess what? I saw them every day, right? I had the same staff. I didn't have all these people coming from every direction, right? I knew the ward sister, right? I knew the consultants. I got to know them in all of that time. And you know what? Chris had the best care, right? He died peacefully, he did, right? In the end, until you get there. But guess what? He had dignity. They washed him. They looked after him for me. And they gave me that time to adjust as a grieving wife that had just happened. And I don't want anybody to lose anybody. But it's going to happen, We all come to an end of life. So guess what? If that's the case, I'll give it to myself. Do you know what I mean? Because I just want to say, do you know what? I want a bit of peace. I don't want you messing about on a scoreboard, because the scoreboards as well, exactly the same. They're all adjusted. So you could have a patient with end of life that was naught. Really? What, you can honestly see that's a naught? More like a 10, not a naught. It breaks my heart seeing anything like that. No, so no.
No,
I'm not having it.
I agree. I agree. It's just really, really good, Justine. You've put your head above that water level of corruption, and you're peaking above it there. But there's so many other people who are just under that level who've reached out to me just in the past couple of days who want to do this. They are going to.
And this could be one of those floodgate type situations, couldn't it? It could just open a floodgate, and then before you know it,
it is. Yeah.
There's hundreds coming forward. So thank you again.
Definitely.
To the next episode, definitely. To the next episode. Take care.
Bye.
Take care. See you later. Thank you.
This is in relation to some comments that you've made on a Facebook page.
Across the pond. This is a Fox News alert. The Epstein files have been released. Across the pond.
You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening
Very serious.
now.